Welcome back, my beautiful family. I want to say thank you for your love and support for growing of our community. I pray may God Almighty should bless you and reward you all. Amen. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. Like and comment where you're watching from. So let's continue from where we stopped previous time. She was lovely, Dorothy said softly, meaning it. You can keep this, of course. But maybe we move it somewhere else? Not hidden away, but integrated into your life in a healthier way. Perhaps in your study, where you actually spend time. And this is exactly why you're trying to deflect. Because you feel it too. That's irrelevant. The hell it is. Evie's rarely raised his voice, and the force of it made Dorothy jump. He ran his hands through his hair, clearly struggling for control. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to shout. But, Dorothy, you can't stand there and tell me you don't feel this connection between us. You can't tell me that all these conversations, all these moments, have been one-sided. Dorothy wanted to lie, wanted to protect them both from this dangerous precipice they were standing on. But she'd spent too many years being honest with herself to start lying now. What I feel doesn't matter. We can't. This can't happen. Why not? Because I work for you. Because your daughter and mine are best friends. Because you're still grieving. And she stopped, but not quickly enough. You're what? Evie's pressed. What are you afraid of, Dorothy? And there it was, the question she'd been running from since the moment they met. I'm afraid, she said quietly, tears burning behind her eyes, of being the rebound. The woman who helped you heal enough to eventually meet someone you actually love. I'm afraid of falling for you and then watching you realize you only needed me to get past your grief. I'm afraid of losing myself in someone else's story again, the way I did with Michael. Only worse because this time I'd actually be in love. And when you moved on, it would destroy me. The words hung between them, raw and honest and terrifying. Evie stared at her, his expression a mixture of pain and understanding. Is that what you think? That you'd be some kind of transitional woman? That I'd use you to heal and then discard you? It happens, Dorothy said, swiping at her eyes. It's practically a cliché. Widower meets kind woman who helps him remember how to live. Uses her to work through his grief. Then finds someone else for the actual relationship. That's not. Evie's took a deep breath, visibly trying to calm himself. Dorothy, I understand why you'd think that. I do. But you're wrong about me, about this. What I feel for you isn't about Catherine. It's not about filling a void or working through my grief. It's about you. The way you challenge me, the way you see through my bullshit, the way you make me want to be better than I've been, the way you make me laugh, the way you get this little crease between your eyebrows when you're concentrating, the way you... Stop, Dorothy whispered. Please, just stop. They stood in the middle of the empty master bedroom, surrounded by paint samples and fabric swatches, the afternoon light streaming through the windows. Catherine had once looked through. The weight of it all, the past, the present, the impossible future, pressed down on Dorothy until she could barely breathe. I need to go, she said abruptly. I need to think. I just need to go. Dorothy looked down at their joined hands, feeling the warmth of his touch radiating through her body. I'm not running. I'm being smart. There's a difference. Is there? Evers's thumb traced circles on her palm, the same gesture he'd used that first night, and Dorothy felt her resolve crumbling. Because from where I'm standing, you're terrified of the same thing I am, that this is real, that it matters, that we could hurt each other. Of course I'm terrified. The words burst out of her. You're right, Evie's. I do feel this connection between us. I think about you constantly. I look forward to our meetings like some lovesick teenager. I lie awake at night wondering what would happen if I just let myself fall. And it scares the hell out of me because I don't know how to do this, how to be vulnerable, how to risk my heart on something that could so easily go wrong. Evie's pulled her closer, his free hand coming up to cup her face. Neither do I, he admitted. I'm completely lost here, Dorothy. I don't have a roadmap for this. All I know is that when I'm with you, I feel alive in a way I haven't in years. And when you leave, the house feels empty in a way it never did before. And that terrifies me too. Because I swore I'd never let myself need someone like this again. They were inches apart now, and Dorothy could feel his breath on her face, could see the flecks of blue in his grey eyes. Every instinct screamed to her to close the distance, to stop thinking and just feel. But a lifetime of caution held her back. "We can't," she whispered. "Not like this. Not in the middle of this project, with everything so tangled up. I need to finish the renovation. I need to fulfill my professional obligations. And we both need time to think about this clearly, without the intensity of working together every day." Evers's jaw clenched, but he nodded slowly. "You're right. You're probably right. But Dorothy, when the project is finished, when you've fulfilled your professional obligations, can we revisit this conversation?" Dorothy knew she should say no, should close this door firmly and finally. But looking into Evers's eyes, seeing the hope and fear mirrored back at her, she couldn't do it. "Yes," she said softly. "When the project is finished, we can talk." Evie's released her hand reluctantly, stepping back to give her space. "Then I'll try to be patient. Though I should warn you, patience has never been my strong suit." Dorothy managed a watery laugh. "I've noticed. I should go. I'll email you the final plans for this room, and we can discuss them over the phone rather than in person. I think that might be safer." "Safer," Evie's repeated, a hint of irony in his voice. "Is that what we are aiming for now? Safety?" "One of us has to be sensible," Dorothy replied, already moving toward the door. "And apparently, it's going to be me." She made it to her car before the tears came in earnest, great heaving sobs that she muffled against her steering wheel. What was she doing? She'd just walked away from a man who made her feel things she'd never felt before, who looked at her like she was precious, who'd been brave enough to be vulnerable when vulnerability clearly terrified him. But she'd also protected herself, protected them both from a potential disaster. She'd been smart, professional, responsible. So why did it feel like she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life? Back in the master bedroom, Evie's picked up Catherine's photograph, studying the faces captured there. His younger self, his beautiful wife, both of them frozen in a moment of perfect happiness that had seemed like it would last forever. "I don't know what to do," he said to the image. "I never thought I'd feel this way again. Never wanted to. But Catherine, she's extraordinary. And I think I'm falling for her. Actually, I think I've already fallen. And I don't know if that's okay. I don't know if I'm betraying you, or if this is what you'd want from me. I don't know anything anymore except that when Dorothy looks at me, I feel like maybe I could be whole again. Not half of what we were, but something different. Something new." The photograph offered no answers, just a silent testament to a love that had been and could never be again. Evie's carefully wrapped it in tissue paper and set it on his desk in the study, where Dorothy had suggested. Not hidden, but not front and center either. A memory, not a shrine. When Elegance and Sophia returned from London 3 days later, they immediately sensed the shift. Dorothy had completed most of the renovation in their absence, working with contractors and designers but avoiding Evie's as much as possible, citing the need to let him focus on his work while she handled the details. Their communication had been reduced to brief, professional emails, and the easy intimacy of their earlier collaboration had evaporated. What happened? Sophia demanded when she arrived at her mother's apartment, arms full of London souvenirs and eyes sharp with concern. "You've barely mentioned the project in our calls, and when I texted Mr. Thornwood to thank him for the opportunity, he was weird. Formal. Not like he's been lately." Dorothy focused on making tea, not meeting her daughter's eyes. Nothing happened. The project is nearly complete. We are in the final stages, and there's really nothing to report. "Mom." Sophia's voice was gentle but firm. "I know you. Something's wrong. Did Mr. Thornwood do something? Because if he was inappropriate." "No." Dorothy turned quickly. "No, nothing like that. Evie's has been a perfect gentleman. It's just," she stopped, unsure how much to reveal. "You have feelings for him," Sophia said quietly. "And he has feelings for you. And it's terrifying." Dorothy sank into a chair, her defenses crumbling. "Is it that obvious?" To someone who knows you. Yes. Sophia sat across from her, taking her mother's hands. Mom, why is that a bad thing? Mr. Thornwood is a good man. He's been alone too long. And you've been alone too long. Elegance and I, we were kind of hoping. You were matchmaking, Dorothy interrupted. This whole thing was a setup. Sophia had the grace to look slightly guilty. Not entirely. You genuinely are the best designer for the job. But yes, Elegance and I thought maybe, if you spent time together, you'd see that you're perfect for each other. You're both widowed, both raising daughters alone, both broken, Dorothy finished. Sophia, sweetheart, I appreciate what you were trying to do. But it's not that simple. Your father and I, we were friends. Partners. But we were never, she struggled for words. With Evie's, it would be different. It would be everything. And if it went wrong, if I let myself fall and he eventually realized I was just a stepping stone to his healing, it would destroy me. What if it doesn't go wrong? Sophia challenged. What if you're not a stepping stone? What if you're exactly what he's been waiting for, and is exactly what you need? Then I'd be terrified for entirely different reasons, Dorothy admitted. I don't know how to do this, honey. I don't know how to be the great love of someone's life. I was never that for your father, and I'm not sure I know how to be that for anyone. Maybe you don't have to know, Sophia said gently. Maybe you just have to be willing to try. Dorothy wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe that she could be brave enough, strong enough, to risk her heart on something that felt this big, this important. But fear was a powerful thing, and she'd spent too many years building her walls to tear them down easily. Across town, in the study of the Thornwood estate, where Elegance had cornered her father. What did you do? She demanded, arms crossed, her expression somewhere between disappointed and furious. Dorothy has been avoiding you for days. The renovation is beautiful, but she's arranged everything so you barely have to see each other. What happened? Evie's looked up from his desk, exhaustion evident in every line of his face. I told her the truth. That I have feelings for her. That I want. He stopped, shaking his head. It doesn't matter what I want. She made it clear that nothing can happen while we are working together. And she's right. It would be unprofessional, complicated. But when the project is finished. Elegance pressed. Then we'll see. Evie's turned back to his paperwork, but Elegance wasn't done. Father, look at me. She waited until he complied. You've been alone for 15 years. 15 years of going through the motions, of existing but not living. And in the past month, since you met Dorothy, I've seen you come alive. You laugh. You engage. You actually seem to enjoy being in this house instead of hiding from it. Don't let fear make you lose that. It's not my fear I'm worried about, Evie's admitted. It's hers. Dorothy's terrified that she's some kind of transitional woman, that I'll use her to heal and then move on. And I don't know how to prove to her that's not what this is. That she's not. He struggled for words. She's not Catherine. She's not meant to be Catherine. She's Dorothy, and I'm falling for her exactly as she is. But how do I prove that when she won't even see me? Elegance's expression softened. You give her time. You give her space. And when the project is finished, when all the professional boundaries are gone, you tell her exactly what you just told me. And then you hope she's brave enough to believe you. The renovation of the Thornwood estate was completed 1 week later. Dorothy had transformed the cold, museum-like space into a home, warm, inviting, full of color and life. The formal living room now had comfortable furniture arranged for conversation, with family photos on the walls. The dining room felt intimate despite its size, with lighting that could be adjusted for mood. The master bedroom had been completely reimagined, with soft blues and creams that felt peaceful rather than sterile. But the biggest change was in Evers's study. Dorothy had expanded it, made it the heart of the home. Books still lined the walls, but now there were also photos of Elegance at various ages, artwork that Evie's had collected but never displayed, comfortable seating for reading or conversation. And on the desk, in a place of honor but not dominance, was Catherine's photograph, a memory kept but not worshipped. The final walkthrough was scheduled for a Friday evening. Dorothy had debated sending an assistant, but professional integrity demanded she be there personally to ensure Evie's was satisfied with the work. She dressed carefully that morning, choosing a burgundy dress that was professional but elegant, armor for what she knew would be a difficult meeting. Evie's was waiting in the entrance hall when she arrived, and the sight of him still made her breath catch. He'd trimmed his hair, was wearing jeans and a casual button-down rather than his usual suit, and he looked younger somehow, more relaxed than she'd seen him. "Dorothy," he said, and there was so much in that one word: warmth, longing, question. "Thank you for coming." "Of course. It's my job to ensure you're happy with the final product." She kept her voice professional, creating distance with words since she couldn't seem to create it physically. Her body wanted to move toward him like a flower toward sunlight. They walked through the house together, and Dorothy watched Evers's face as he took in the changes. In each room, she explained her choices, the reasoning behind the design decisions, speaking with the practiced ease of someone giving a professional presentation. But underneath, her heart was racing, her palms sweating. When they reached the master bedroom, Evie stopped in the doorway, his throat working as he swallowed hard. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. I never thought I'd be able to walk in here again without feeling like I was drowning. But this feels peaceful, like I could actually sleep here." "That was the goal," Dorothy replied. "A space that honors your past but doesn't trap you in it." They moved through the rest of the house, ending in the expanded study. Evie's walked slowly around the room, taking in every detail: the way she'd arranged his books, the photos she'd chosen to display, the comfortable reading nook by the window. He stopped at his desk, his hand hovering over Catherine's photograph. "You put it here," he said. "You said you wanted to keep it," Dorothy reminded him. This seemed like the right place, where you actually spend your time, where the memory can be part of your daily life without dominating it. Evie's picked up the frame, studying the image for a long moment. Then he carefully opened the desk drawer and placed the photograph inside, face up where he could see it but not on display. Dorothy's breath caught. "You don't have to." "Yes," Evie's interrupted, turning to face her. "Ido. Dorothy, you've given me my home back. More than that, you've helped me understand that I can honor Catherine's memory without being imprisoned by it, that I can keep her in my heart without closing my heart to everything and everyone else." He moved toward her, and Dorothy fought the urge to back away. "The project is finished," he continued. "All the professional boundaries that were stopping us, they're gone now. So I'm going to ask you again, plainly, with no room for misunderstanding. May I take you to dinner? Not as your client, not as Elegance's father, but as a man who's falling for a woman and wants to see where this could go." Dorothy's mind raced with all the reasons to say no, the risks, the complications, the very real possibility of getting hurt. But as she looked into Evers's eyes and saw the vulnerability there, the hope and fear mixed together, she realized that Sophia had been right. Sometimes you had to be willing to try, even when you were terrified. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll have dinner with you." Evers's face transformed, his smile so bright and genuine that Dorothy felt her own fears start to recede. "Tomorrow night. I know a place, quiet, intimate. We can talk without Elegance and Sophia hovering." "They're going to hover," Dorothy warned him. "You know they orchestrated this whole thing, right?" "I know." Evie's reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear in a gesture so tender it made Dorothy's eyes sting. "And I'm grateful to them for being wiser than we were. But tomorrow night, it's just us. No Dalguers, no Renovation, no Ghosts. Just two people who've been alone too long, trying to figure out if they could be less alone together." Dorothy nodded, not trusting her voice. Evie's walked her to the door, and as she was leaving, he caught her hand one more time. "Dorothy, thank you. For the house, yes, but more for pushing me to see that I could have a life again. That I deserve to have a life again." "Everyone deserves that," Dorothy replied softly. "Even scared widows who forgot how to take risks." She drove home in a daze, her mind reeling with what she'd agreed to. She'd said yes. She'd actually said yes. And tomorrow night, she and Evie's would have dinner, just the two of them, and then what? She had no idea. But for the first time in 8 years, Dorothy Morrison was willing to find out. Dorothy changed her outfit 7 times before Sophia physically intervened, plucking the black dress from her mother's hands and throwing it on the pile with all the others. Mom, you're overthinking this. Just wear the emerald green one. It makes your eyes pop, and it's elegant without being too formal. This is dinner, not a wedding. I know that, Dorothy protested, but she was already reaching for the green dress. I haven't done this in so long. What if I've forgotten how to date? What if you just be yourself? Sophia interrupted gently. Mr. Thornwood, Evie's, he already knows you. He's seen you covered in paint samples with your hair in a messy bun. He's heard your design rants and your philosophical tangents. This isn't about impressing someone new. It's about seeing if what you already have can become something more. Dorothy pulled on the dress, studying herself critically in the mirror. At 45, she still liked what she saw, but she couldn't help comparing herself to the photograph of Catherine Thornwood, young, vibrant, frozen in time at her most beautiful. I can hear you spiraling, Sophia said. And I'm going to say this once. You are not in competition with a ghost. Evie's knows that. You need to believe it too. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 o'clock, punctual, Dorothy noted, which fit what she knew of Evers's personality. She took a deep breath, grabbed her clutch, and headed for the door. Evie stood on her doorstep holding a single white rose, wearing a navy suit that must have been tailored to him, and he looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. You're beautiful, he said simply. I mean, you're always beautiful, but tonight you're... He stopped, shaking his head with a self-deprecating smile. I'm terrible at this. I was reasonably smooth at 22, but apparently, I've lost the ability to give a coherent compliment. Dorothy laughed, some of her tension easing. You're doing fine. The rose is a nice touch. It's from the garden, Evie's admitted. One of the last blooms of the season. Catherine always said white roses meant new beginnings. He paused. Is that weird? That I'm quoting my dead wife on our first date? It's honest, Dorothy replied, taking the rose and breathing in its delicate scent. And I'll take honest over smooth any day. The restaurant was in the city's historic district, a small French place that managed to be both intimate and unpretentious. Their table was tucked in a corner, candles flickering between them, wine glasses catching the light. The first few minutes were awkward. They'd spent so much time together discussing the renovation that conversation without that framework felt strange. But then Evie's asked about her design philosophy, and Dorothy relaxed into the familiar territory, explaining how spaces shape behavior, how color affected mood, how the best designs anticipated needs the client didn't even know they had. Like the reading nook you created in my study, Evie said. I didn't ask for that, but now I use it every morning. How did you know? I watched you, Dorothy admitted. The way you'd stand by the window when you were thinking, the way you'd hold a book sometimes but never quite sit down to read it. You needed permission to relax in your own space, so I created a spot that demanded it. You're very observant, Evie's noted. Slightly unnerving, actually. Occupational hazard. Dorothy sipped her wine. You learn to read people, to see what they're not saying. It's essential for good design. And in relationships. Evie's asked, is it helpful or harmful to be that perceptive? Dorothy considered the question. Both, probably. You can't lie to someone who sees through you, which makes for honest relationships. But it also means you see the cracks before anyone else does. You anticipate problems, you build walls to protect yourself, Evie's finished. I understand that impulse very well. Their eyes met across the table, and Dorothy felt that electric connection again, the sense that they were speaking a language only they understood. Tell me something, Evie said. Something you don't usually share. Something that helps me understand you better. Dorothy thought about deflecting, about giving him some superficial truth that would satisfy the question without revealing anything real. But Sophia's words echoed in her mind. Just be yourself. I'm afraid, she admitted quietly, that I don't know how to be someone's great love. Michael and I, we were partners, friends, co-parents. But passion, grand romance, those were things I read about, not things I lived. And now, with you, I feel things I've never felt before, and I don't know what to do with them. I don't know if I'm capable of being what you need. Evie's reached across the table, taking her hand. Can I tell you a secret? I don't know either. Catherine and I, we grew up together, we learned how to love together. It was easy because we were so young, because neither of us knew any better. But now, I'm 55 years old, set in my ways, carrying 15 years of grief and guilt. I don't know how to start over, how to build something new with someone who has their own scars, their own walls. I just know that when I'm with you, I want to figure it out. That's terrifying, Dorothy whispered. Absolutely, Evie's agreed. But maybe that's how you know it's real. Because if it were easy, if there were no risk, it wouldn't mean anything. They talked through dinner, through dessert, through coffee, the conversation flowing from deep to light and back again. Dorothy learned that Evie's had a dry sense of humor that took her by surprise, that he did a terrible impression of his business partner that made her laugh so hard she snorted wine, that he'd once wanted to learn to play piano but never had the time. And Evie's learned that Dorothy could recite entire scenes from Casablanca, that she'd been briefly obsessed with birdwatching in her 30s, that she secretly loved terrible reality TV shows and would deny it if asked. When the check came, Evie's insisted on paying despite Dorothy's protests. Old-fashioned of me, I know, but humor me. Next time, you can pay if it makes you feel better. Next time. Dorothy raised an eyebrow. Too presumptuous. Evie's asked, but there was a confidence in his smile that suggested he wasn't worried about the answer. Probably, Dorothy replied. But I'm willing to overlook it this once. Evie's drove her home, and they sat in the car outside her building, neither quite ready for the evening to end. I have a confession, Evie said. I haven't been on a date since 1995. I have no idea what the protocol is anymore. Do I walk you to your door? Do I try to kiss you goodnight? Do I just awkwardly wave and drive away? Dorothy laughed. I haven't dated since 1998, so I'm equally clueless. But I think, she paused, gathering her courage. I think I'd like you to walk me to my door. They got out of the car, and Evie's took her hand as they walked the short distance to her building's entrance. The gesture felt simultaneously natural and earth-shaking. Such a small thing, holding hands, but weighted with everything it represented. At her door, Dorothy turned to face him, suddenly nervous. I had a wonderful time tonight. So did I, Evie's replied. More than wonderful, actually. Dorothy, he stopped, seeming to struggle with words. I need you to know that this isn't casual for me. I'm not looking for companionship or convenience. When I look at you, I see. He paused again. I see a future. Maybe that's too much, too soon, but I need to be honest. You deserve honesty. Dorothy's heart hammered against her ribs. That terrifies me, she admitted. But it doesn't make me want to run. Which is new. Progress, then, Evie said with a small smile. He raised his hand, cupping her cheek with a gentleness that made her breath catch. May I kiss you? The question was so old-fashioned, so respectful, that Dorothy felt tears prick her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Evie's leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind, to pull back. But Dorothy didn't pull back. When his lips met hers, it was soft, tentative, a question more than a statement. Dorothy's hands came up to rest on his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath her palms, and she kissed him back with a tenderness that surprised them both. When they finally pulled apart, Evie's rested his forehead against hers, both of them breathing hard. That was... Yeah, Dorothy agreed. It really was. They stood there for a long moment, neither wanting to break the spell. Finally, Evie stepped back, his hand lingering on her face before falling away. Good night, Dorothy. Good night, Evie's. She watched him walk back to his car, watched him drive away, before finally letting herself into her apartment. Sophia was waiting on the couch, pretending to read a magazine but clearly vibrating with curiosity. "How was it?" she demanded the moment the door closed. Dorothy sank onto the couch beside her daughter, her hand unconsciously touching her lips. "It was perfect. And terrifying. And I think I might be falling in love with him." Sophia squealed, throwing her arms around her mother. "I'm so happy for you. Did he kiss you? Are you seeing him again? Did he?" "Yes, yes, and probably yes," Dorothy laughed. "Slow down. We are taking this one step at a time." But as she got ready for bed that night, Dorothy knew that one step at a time might be impossible. Because when Evie's Thornwood kissed her goodnight, when he looked at her like she was precious, like she was the answer to a question he'd stopped asking years ago, she'd felt herself falling, not carefully, not cautiously, but completely. And it was the most terrifying, exhilarating thing she'd ever experienced. For 3 weeks, Dorothy and Evie's dated with the cautious optimism of people who'd forgotten how to hope. Dinners turned into weekend brunches, phone calls that stretched past midnight, stolen moments between her client meetings and his business obligations. They were careful, deliberate, taking their time to build something real beneath the initial attraction. Elegance and Sophia were thrilled, their matchmaking having succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. The 4 of them had dinner together occasionally, and Dorothy loved watching Evie's with the young women. The way he listened to their dreams, offered advice without being preachy, clearly adored his daughter while respecting her independence. "This is nice," Elegance said one evening after dinner, as the 4 of them sat on the estate's terrace watching the sunset. "Having you here, Dorothy. It makes the house feel like a home." Dorothy squeezed her hand, moved by the acceptance. She'd worried that Elegance might resent her, might see her as trying to replace Catherine. But the young woman had welcomed her warmly, openly hopeful that her father had found happiness again. But not everything was perfect. Dorothy noticed small things, the way Evie sometimes went quiet when they passed a restaurant he'd once gone to with Catherine, the way he'd deflect whenever conversations about the future got too specific, the way he still kept parts of himself carefully guarded. And there was Marcus. Marcus Thornwood was Evers' older brother, a man Dorothy had heard about but never met until he showed up unannounced at the estate 4 weeks into her relationship with Evie's. She was there for dinner. These visits had become regular occurrences. When the doorbell rang, Elegance answered it, and Dorothy heard the surprise in her voice. "Uncle Marcus, we weren't expecting you." "Well, I heard some interesting news about my little brother finally rejoining the land of the living, and I had to see for myself." The voice was cultured, smooth, with an edge that Dorothy couldn't quite identify. Marcus Thornwood was an older, sharper version of Evie's, same height, same build, but with fully grey hair and eyes that assessed rather than observed. When he entered the living room and saw Dorothy sitting beside Evie's on the couch, his expression flickered with something Dorothy couldn't read. "So it's true," Marcus said. "Evie's, aren't you going to introduce me?" Evie stood, his body language suddenly tense. "Marcus, I didn't know you were coming to town. Last-minute business. Thought I'd stop by." Marcus's eyes never left Dorothy. "And you must be the interior designer who's been taking up so much of my brother's time." There was something in his tone, not quite accusatory, but definitely not friendly. Dorothy stood, extending her hand. Dorothy Morrison. Continue soon, on our next video. Thanks for taking your precious time watching. Please, before you leave, don't forget to subscribe, like and comment where you are watching from.